right, today we're going to look at centering your piece upside down so that you can trim the foot. Prior to this, you threw the piece, it dried, it's now leather hard, or possibly even leather soft. You've trimmed it upright if there's any shaping or anything that you needed to do, and now it's time that we're going to trim in a foot. I have already, when I trimmed it up, when I did the upright trimming, I went ahead and shaped this bottom to make it a little bit easier at this point. I do that with most of my pots, and I maybe haven't taught you that yet because I don't tend to teach that right at the beginning, just a little bit later when you're ready for it. But I use this tool right here, and when the pot is the other direction, I shape that foot while it's upright. Anyway, makes it a little bit easier for me. Alright, so now it's time to trim a foot on the pot. And the first thing we're going to need to do is get it centered. So the circles on the wheel head are pretty useful. You can use them to kind of line it up and get it as centered as you think you can. But note that we're not really worried about if it's centered here. It's this part. It's the bottom of the piece, which is now at the top, is the part that we're trying to get centered because this is where we're going to be trimming the foot. And so I use my needle tool as a gauge to be able to tell how centered my piece is. I'm going to try to hold it here on the side so that you can see it well in the video, although I normally hold it back here with two hands. But I'm going to do it over here today for you to look at. But know that holding it with two hands is better. And I actually use a very slow wheel, and I just let it spin a little bit. And then my needle tool gets a little closer and a little closer and a little closer until it touches. Right here it's touching the clay body, and here it's quite far away. Here I'm touching the clay body, here I'm far away. So then I can stop it and I can look. That part where it touched the clay body, it is on this side from here to here. So I need to move the piece directly away from where it's hitting, but just a little bit. So we're going to move it that direction, just a little, and go again. By just a slow wheel, and there it is. There it's touching right here. There it's touching. Okay, so we're going to look at where that scrape is, and it's from here to here. So I actually moved it a little bit too far. So I'm going to need to move it back. So because it's from here to here, I'm going to move it directly away from that scratched part. So we're going to go back just a little bit and go again. And if I get too many scratches on there, I don't want to scratch very deep, obviously, but I can get, if I get too many scratches on there, I can just smooth it out with my finger so that I can tell where my new scratches are, if you will. So we're going to do it again. And again, I'll hold it on the side so you can see. But if you notice, my needle tool is actually running right along it, all of it. So that is pretty centered. Another thing I can do, if I can't tell which, like I'm trying to center and I can't tell where it needs to be, I might actually just draw a circle here on the top, very, very lightly, very gently. And from that, I can see, and this one is fairly centered, so look, it's equal distances all the way around. It's not perfect, but it's really good. If it's not equal distances all the way around, and your circle was scallompusy, you would be able to tell, like here's really wide and here's very thin. So I'm going to move it away from the wide towards the thin until I can get that to be a nice circle. So that's another visual that you can use. Another advantage of drawing this little circle on the top is it also gives me a target to go to when I am actually trimming my foot. I can draw those lines of like, where do I actually want that foot to be, and where. All right, now that your piece is centered on the wheel head, you're going to get a clump of clay, and you're going to break it into 3 lugs. And you'll put the 3 lugs, 3 just works better than more. And you'll kind of put them evenly, equal distance around the pot. And you're going to hold the pot in place, and you're going to be pressing those lugs actually onto the wheel head. You don't want to press them into your clay body. It can deform the walls. And a lot of that can be fixed later, but less fixing is better, obviously. So you're just pressing it into the wheel head, but the clay needs to support and touch the clay body so that it will hold it in place. Now that you've got that in place, you can start trimming. I'm going to start with this trimming tool. These two are your primary trimming tools. There are more tools over on the shelf that are used for trimming if you need them for different reasons and purposes. And if you don't know, ask questions. I'm more than happy to share what tools are for. But the first thing I do is cut in this outside edge. So I just bring this and I cut it in. Now I've already done that for the most part. I do that with a tool while I'm throwing most of the time, so it's not really necessary for me to do it right now. But just holding this piece straight in and cutting that clay body in is how you would achieve that shape. Mine is already there. Sorry, that's just how I throw mine. And if you want to know how to do that, just ask me. But once I've got this part carved in, with trimming, I always say a little bit here, a little bit there, because it kind of pushes the clay, right? So you've got to take some off from this way and take a little from this way, and take a little from this way, and take a little from this way. Anyway, so now I'm going to come in to this line that I made. That is a good target where I want to go, and I'm going to come from that line and in towards the center and take that clay out. I start it by holding it at a 45-degree angle bevel because I like the shape that it makes. Definitely not required. You can have square edges. You can shape your foot however you want to, honestly. But this is the technique I was taught, and I just like the way it looks. I think it gives it a nice, classy, fun look. But when you're deciding how you want to do your foot, I mostly want you to consider its functionality. What is the purpose of the foot, and how is it going to be functional? We want to get rid of excess clay is part of it. That makes your piece not so heavy, as well as it gives it a foot, and the foot is a level place for your piece to sit down, like on a countertop, and to lay flat. If you have a wide surface on the bottom, it tends to warp with clay, and then it's kind of hard to get it to lay flat. So that is why we trim a foot. Also, it gives it a nice finished look. It's just part of that wheel throwing pottery process. You can use a faster wheel. I tend to use a little bit slower wheel when trimming, but most teachers actually do recommend a little faster wheel. Let's just say I've messed up a lot of pieces, and that's why I've gone to using a slower wheel if I don't have a steady hand. Alright, so now that I've got that center piece cut out, so I've got this inner part of my foot built, I'm going to come to the outside and I'm going to match that bevel, and I'm going to put it on a 45 as well. And I kind of match that bevel, and it just gives it a nice looking foot. And again, we're going to come back to, I trim a little bit here, a little bit there, because it does push that clay around a little bit instead of always cutting it. You want to hold your tools at an angle that is causing some cutting to happen, because we are trying to get the clay to cut away, not just like smash or form into it. And kind of want to just clean up that little edge there. And there you have it. From here, I'll take it and wipe it down with a sponge, get these little boogers that tend to happen off. I'll put my maker's mark in it, and then I'll log it into the system and put it on the greenware shelf, and that is when it is complete. Also remember that at this stage, after you've trimmed your foot, is a great time to do any embellishments with clay that you want to do. So adding a handle, adding decorative touches if you want to add any extra clay onto it, trimming away anything that you want taken off. Just kind of all of those finishing touches happen here at this stage before it makes it to the greenware shelf.